share my screen again. So let's look at the single tenant and single workspace solution. So in this case, we have a tenant that is tied to a subscription. All right, we have a tenant tied to a subscription, and then we have a single workspace. All right, so this workspace is going to host all the data. This single workspace is good for small businesses. Right? This workspace is good for businesses that are not legally bounded in terms of data residency. No data residency limitation. So if we are able to meet, especially this data residency issue, if you are able to meet this requirements, then we're good. If you are not bounded by data residency requirements, if you are not bounded by kinds of workloads, because that means that all your workloads are going to be managed in this single workspace. All right. The second option is that we can have another type of workspace. So this second one is single tenant. Right, single tenant with regional workspace. So in this case, we still have a single tenant, right, with its corresponding subscription, but we have multiple workspace. All right. So that means that if we have workloads in East US, let's take this out. East US, if you have workloads in East US, if you have workloads in West US, if you have workloads in Canada East, if you have workloads in South Africa, that means we need corresponding workspaces for each of these locations. We have to create the workspaces in each of these locations. So remember, I mentioned the other time, for single tenants, you are not bounded by data residency limitations. So in this case, we might be bounded by data residency limitations. So we maybe as a result of GDPR requirements, which mandates that for end users within the European region, their data has to remain within the European region. So for that kind of situation, that means that we will have to create a corresponding workspace in a region around Europe. All right. So we're going to have a workspace created in Europe to meet the GDPR requirements. All right. The third one is the multi-tenant, which is the big one. Multi-tenant. So in this case, perhaps depending on the size of our organization, we have multiple tenants. So you have a tenant one, tenant two, tenant three. So tenant one could be for a recent merger. So let's assume your organization just acquired a subsidiary, right? They just invested in a new business and they want to onboard that business into their own organization, can create a dedicated tenant for them. Tenant 2 could be for your production workloads. Tenant 3 could be for your, say, development workloads. All right. So that means we're going to have multiple workspaces for multiple tenants. So if the workloads require data residency expectations, then that means you're going to have more than one workspace in each of those tenants. So now, how do we manage this? We have a service that is readily available that you can use in Microsoft that can be used to manage these workspaces across the multiple tenants where they have been created. So the name of the service is Azure Lighthouse. All right. So with Azure Lighthouse, we'll be able to manage all these workspaces regardless of which tenants they have been created. Okay. So multi-tenant workspaces is going to be suitable for global organizations. Even single tenant with regional workspaces is also recommended for global organizations or organizations that have footprints across a geographic distribution, across intercontinental distribution, right? So if you have a presence in Canada, you might want to have a workspace for everything Canada related. If you have a presence in Africa, you might want to have a workspace that is created in South Africa because that is where you have the Microsoft data center. If you have a workspace, if you have a presence in Middle East, you might want to have a workspace in Qatar since it's in Middle East, right? So that means your workspace was created in Qatar data center, right? So briefly, that is what I wanted to share with us. So it's possible to have your workloads distributed across multiple locations, geographically distributed locations, and still be able to manage them in Microsoft Sentinel. All right. See you in another edition of Briefly with Azure. Thank you.